All right. Well, welcome everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming and attending tonight. This is our first ever live interview series, Trailblazers PBC. Give a round of applause. We are actually also live streaming this event on Facebook, so I want to say hi to everyone who are watching on Facebook and welcome them as well. My name is Serena Spates. I am the Senior Multimedia Communications Specialist for the Riviera Beach Police Department. That is really just, thank you. That's really just a long title for Public Information Officer, but I am so excited to be here. I really can't take all the credit for this event. It was really the brainchild and the idea and concept of our chief, Michael Coleman. He is at another event, but yes, please give him a round of applause. He's running between events, so he'll be back soon. But he really trusted me to take this initiative and to lead it and to run with it. And so I'm super excited to be here and super honored. So what is Trailblazers PBC? It's really a platform for us to be able to highlight and feature and acknowledge those who are making a positive impact here in our county, those who are really doing the work to change the social landscape of our county. And so when we came together and we thought of this idea and we made a wish list of those that we really wanted to feature, I have to say that Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Aronberg was really at the top of our list. And so, yeah. Some of us here may know all about the work that Dave has done here in our county, and some of us may not, but and you've probably seen him on national news and all over TV, but I think it's really important for us here locally to really honor and acknowledge what he's doing here. We live here in this county, and he's really made Palm Beach County kind of the standard and the model for prosecution in the state. So let's give him a round of applause. So before I bring him on stage, I'm going to read his bio because I think it's important to really hear. When I looked at it on paper, it was really, it's a tremendous achievement to see all that he's done in 12 years. So I'm going to read a little bit of it. So Mr. Aronberg is the state attorney for the 15th Judicial Circuit since 2012, with a background as a former assistant attorney general, White House fellow, and Florida senator. Aronberg leads a team of over 115 prosecutors and 180 staff across Palm Beach County. His leadership has resulted in high conviction rates for felonies and misdemeanors, a decrease in juveniles tried as adults, and improved cooperation with law enforcement agencies, which we're super grateful for. Aronberg's notable achievements include creating a sober homes task force that made over 120 arrests for patient brokering and insurance fraud, leading to significant legislative reforms in Google's crackdown on addiction treatment ads. His efforts contributed to a 14% reduction in opioid-related deaths in Palm Beach County in 2021. Born in Miami, Aronberg graduated with honors from Harvard College and Harvard Law School. He served as a White House fellow specializing in international money laundering investigations. As the youngest member of the state Senate, Aronberg championed criminal justice and consumer protection laws, including combating identity theft and securing port security. Returning to the Florida Attorney General's office in 2010, Aronberg spearheaded initiatives to combat prescription drug trafficking, earning him the title of the state's drug czar. His advocacy continues today, focusing on saving lives from drug overdoses. A frequent legal commentator on national television, Aronberg is passionate about bringing transparency to the legal system and addressing criminal justice issues. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm welcome to State Attorney Dave Aronberg.
Thank you. Thank you, Serena.
So thank you so much for joining me again. How are you?
It is such an honor to be here and to be with my friends from the office, from the community, from the police, and with you, Serena. And I would be loath to mention, or it would be a shame if I didn't mention that I'm here with my fiancée, Sasha Craver. We're going to get married.
Sasha.
Going to get married in a couple months, so I got to remember, always introduce her first,
Yes.
if possible, right?
You know, he's a very wise man. Okay. All right, so before we get into our interview, I want to say that I had the pleasure and honor of working with your communications team with Mark Freeman and Natalie and Latasha, and they helped me put together a little video with some of your staff and some of the people that work with you at the office. And so if you've ever seen Jimmy Fallon, The Tonight Show, you are familiar with his thank you notes segment. If you're not, don't worry, you can go home and Google it and watch it later. But so some of your staff sat down and wrote some thank you notes to you. So we're going to take a quick look.
This is not mean tweets, right? Okay, because...
No.
Okay.
Dave, for being awesome, and for all of the extra days off, and for the skeleton crews. We all love and appreciate it. But most importantly, thank you for being a...
I think there's some extra music playing in the background.
You want to dim the lights, maybe?
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you, Dave, for being awesome, and for all of the extra days off, and for the skeleton crews. We all love and appreciate it. But most importantly, thank you for being a friend. I've gotten to know you over the past few years, and we have shared a love of animals. We have met each other's dogs. I've met Getty and Blue and the late Cookie, and we will always remember your advocacy, specifically animal abuse cases, and your passion for making sure that they are prosecuted to the fullest extent. Also, we appreciate all of your hard work with the Sober Homes Task Force. That will be one of your best legacies. Also, thank you again for being a friend over the past few years, and that we will very much miss your fearless leadership and, of course, the birthday shout-outs. And we wish you the best in your next endeavor.
Thank you. From a fellow Taurus to another Taurus, we are so happy to have you as our boss for all this time. Thank you so much for all you have done for us. We could not have asked for a better boss, and we will definitely miss you. And here to many more birthdays on the same month. And now I know why you remember my birthday, because yours is the day before mine.
So I call everyone on their birthdays. That's where this is coming from.
You.
Thank you, Dave, for letting me pet your amazing dog. And I honestly would take it if it wasn't yours. And thank you for my first real job. I appreciate it. And I wish you the best.
Thank you, Dave, for coming to my art show and showing your support. I did not expect it, but I was so pleasantly surprised, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for always remembering my birthday, even though you were probably told by someone else, and you never send a card. Thank you for being the nicest and coolest boss and giving me the most days off that I've ever had. You're the best.
Thank you, Dave, for being the best boss ever. Very good boss. The only thing that was missing is teaching you how to dance. But you did an amazing job doing the wobble, because when you first came out there, you were skipping. But then when you got it, instead of dancing like this, you got up You was, get in there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
We love you for it. We're gonna miss you. Thank you, Dave, for always being a true champion for our office. I'm about to cry now, but I'm not gonna do it. Thank you, Dave. Love you always, Sonia.
Dear Dave, thank you for taking me and our executive team on that week-long ski trip to Aspen last year, and of course that fun Western Caribbean cruise the year before. I'll always remember those bonding retreats and how the Palm Beach Post never found out about them. For anyone watching, that did not happen. We went to Vegas. Dear Dave, seriously, thank you for your great leadership of the State Attorney's Office these past 11 years. And of course, bringing me aboard as your Public Information Officer. I've watched your steady decision-making, your strong commitment to public safety, and your tireless work on behalf of crime victims. You truly never waver in seeking justice and inspiring everyone who works for you to give it their all. And while the job is hard, you always find a way to boost our spirits, send us birthday greetings, and genuinely care about everyone who works at the SAO. You make us very proud to do this fine work.
Thank you, Dave. As you know, I'm Italian by background. And in working on a project for you, one of the things that you asked me to do was to give the presentation some schmaltz. And then you asked me if I knew what schmaltz meant. And I had to confess that my husband is Italian and Jewish, and that he had a bubby. So at that point, even though I'm not Jewish, you realize that I knew exactly what schmaltz meant. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to help out with all of the presentations that I've done for you as state attorney.
Thank you, sir, Dave Aronberg, for being on time. No, really, thank you, Dave, sir, for always being there for us and giving us the flexibility and the love and the attention that you give to me and the whole office. We're gonna miss you. I'm crying. I appreciate everything that you've done for me and my family and the whole entire office. You're gonna be greatly missed, and you are my favorite state attorney ever that I've worked with. Thank you.
Dear Dave, thank you for letting me work in this office. I want to say that I really appreciate the 12 years I think it's been with working for you, and I want to thank you, especially I want to thank you for letting me be a part of a very important thing we did back in 2018, which was the grand jury report on school safety. And Marjorie Stoneman Douglas came out, and we were all concerned about school safety. You were on it. You called together myself and the chiefs and Lynn Powell, and we did a grand jury in 3 months. We beat everybody, and we put out this report that outlined what we had to do to keep our schools safe, and we did it within 3 months of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. We beat everybody to the punch. We got all the experts in. We got the sheriffs in. We got law enforcement in to say how we can keep our schools safe. And thankfully, I believe the chief of the school police has utilized this report to make our schools safe. So Dave, thank you. Dave, thank you for not only what I just said, but also for being a true Rush fan. Love Rush, love talking about Rush with you, love commiserating about the unfortunate death of the greatest drummer in the world, and the greatest album really was 2112. I know you disagree.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Wait, who put that up there?
Thank you,
Who
Dave,
did that?
for
You
making
did
this
that?
office such
Yes!
an awesome place to work, and for being such a great leader. I wanted to personally say that you always bring good aura to this place, and you've been an awesome leader. And I wish you the best. I wish you weren't leaving, but I know you're going to move on to bigger and better things. And I support you all the way. And that's from the heart. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave, for allowing us all here to be ourselves and to bring our creativity and to work autonomously with your guidance. You've been wonderful.
Thank you, Dave. For the last 12 years, it's been an absolute joy working in your administration with a top team. I've had an incredible journey along with you. And I guess my biggest thank you is your vision from 7 years ago when you decided enough is enough and it's time to start a sober homes task force in Palm Beach County to be able to address the greatest health crisis of our time. And you picked me, for crying out loud. I knew nothing about it. Well, you knew nothing about it, so we were together in this and we learned a lot. And Dave, seriously, we've saved a lot of lives here in Palm Beach County and across the state with the work we've done. So I'm gonna miss you. I know you're going to be going on to bigger and better things. And I wish you well in your future. Let's stay in touch because we're besties. All right, Dave, take care.
Hi, boss. This is Alexia, or as you like to call me, Lexi C. I remember being your first Facebook friend, and it's awesome to know that we are now real friends. So thank you for all the things that you have done to make me a better prosecutor and a better leader in this office. I feel truly, truly blessed to have been at your side for some of the most amazing moments in my career. Thank you for always having our backs and making sure that we knew that we had an office that supported us and a boss who believed in us. I am so grateful for you, and I am going to miss you terribly. As I close my little video here, I want to also let you know that despite not knowing what's next for you, I want to congratulate you because I know it's going to be something amazing. Best of luck. See you soon.
Hi, Dave. Well, I'm still preparing. I am still writing notes, but I'd like to say thank you for making me chase you around the building the day that Joe Scarborough came in to get you to introduce me to him. But you did, and it was great, and I had a great time doing that. So thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to say is thank you for all of the wonderful things that you do for all of us every single day. From the random pizza parties to the extra time off, a couple of hours every month, and especially for your little history blurbs that you send to us through email for every holiday or every special event or special occasion. You know, it really is great. It really is great. And what I really want to say is, and I got to go back to my notes now, it all starts at the top. And your leadership motivates all of us every single day to do the very best that we can and be the very best people that we can be every single day. The other thing is, it is never a burden to come to work because you have created this environment where it is helpful, it is supportive, everyone works together, and you have created this environment where we all help each other because we all succeed as a unit and not as an individual. I think that I can speak for pretty much all of us when I say that we all feel a connection to you. You remember all of our names, you always have. You take the time out of your day to call us, each and every one of us, on our birthday. I know for me in particular, you have always had my back at the time that I needed it the most, when I wasn't sure whether or not I was ever going to be able to regain my life as I knew it. And you called me and you told me that you had my back. I'll never forget that. Your generosity has made us so much better. You're empathetic, you're warm, you're compassionate, and most of all, you're approachable for every one of us. There isn't one of us that cannot approach you and talk to you. This is genuinely who you are. And I just want to tell you, you'll be missed more than you know. But I'm really looking forward to seeing you on MSNBC. And if you can ever get me to go there and meet Joe and Mika again, that would be great. I would really, really love that. So I wish you all the success and happiness in the world. You certainly deserve it. And you will always be very, very special and very important to all of us here, especially me. Thank you for everything, Dave.
It was really fun to shoot that video and to meet your staff. I came on Valentine's Day. Everyone was so festive, and so everyone said all those great things on camera, but talking to them off camera, they all said the same thing, was that Dave has always had our back. So they all feel really supported by you, and so I just wanted to know from you, what has it been like leading this office for 12 years?
This is mind-blowing, because you don't normally hear this stuff while you're still alive, which is kind of nice to see this. So first off, I'm really grateful to you, Serena, and to your whole video team, and Chief Coleman, and the City of Riviera Beach. It is so special, really meaningful to see my friends here. And that, you know, on that last video, Leslie's, she had those yellow pages. She had like pages of notes that she. Yeah. It's hard to get my head around all this, and I guess it hasn't sunk in yet that I'm leaving. I've been in public service for 20 years, in elective office for the last 20 years, and then in public service for another 6. So it's like my whole adult career, pretty much. When I started, I was at a big law firm in Miami, and that was the last full-time private job I had, and I hated every minute of it. And now here I am, leaving something that I love every minute of. And I'm so grateful for it. And voluntarily leaving. And it's, sometimes I say, am I making the right decision? But, you know, you got to go with your gut to know that nothing is forever. And even if something is your passion, you love it, if there's a window of opportunity out there, you need to try to take it. Or else you're going to think the rest of your life, should I have ever done that? I wish I had tried that. And, you know, I've been given this opportunity to do TV, and I love doing it. And it's one of those things that window will close at some point. And to try it now, to see where it goes, and at the same time to get married and have a job where I can actually buy a house and have kids, and we want 2 kids and 4 dogs and a yard. And so, you know, this is, you know, you should never fear change. You should never fear change. You should embrace change. And so I'm going to embrace it. But when I see this and I see my friends out here, so many of you, it makes me a little wistful and just sad, because I'm going to miss you guys. And just know that I'm not leaving town. I'm not leaving the community. I'm going to be part of the community, just in a different role. And I will always have your backs. I will always have your backs, because I will always be part of that office. And that office will always mean so much to me. And I'll look back upon this job, and I know, and I'm going to think of it as the greatest job I ever had. I can't imagine a job that I'll love more. But it is nice to go out on top before they have to drag you out. In these elective offices, you know, you have a time clock that ticks in. At some point, they're going to drag you out, and I think it's a good thing to leave while the going is good. One thing I learned, can you put the picture? I want to show you something. Can you put that amazing picture that you guys put? No, oh my gosh, no, it wasn't the rush. The profile pic for the event. Who did that?
I did.
You did that, Serena. Can you put that? I'm going to show something about that. Okay. First off, Serena is so talented. I saw this and I was like, right? I went to Chief Coleman, and when I saw this, and I said, who did that? He said, it's Serena, and don't even think about hiring her away. So he knew what I was thinking. I was like, wow, I need to hire her. But here's the thing. You always learn life lessons, and I've learned one today. Note to self, try not to wear the same tie at your event that you wore in your profile picture.
None of us noticed.
Okay, well, I look at that, I'm like, oh, great. Isn't that great? At least I wore a different suit, but my goodness. How did that happen? How did that happen?
You look good in blue, so. All right, well, thank you again to all of the people that participated in that video. It was really fun. I really enjoyed being at your office, so thank you. So speaking of, you talked about being on TV. You appear weekly on MSNBC, and you have your own YouTube channel. If you've not seen it, he's the Florida Lawman.
Well, yes, because people didn't know to find me as Florida Lawman, I've changed it to Dave Aronberg FL. So please like and subscribe, and I also do other channels, but that's my own.
Okay, all right. So you give your legal take on current events and things that are happening. So I thought we'd do a quick segment before we jumped in. We'll warm up with something called Hot Takes with the Florida Lawman. So I'm going to throw out some things, and then you'll give us your hot takes. So some quick and short.
By the way, do you get Florida Lawman? Get it? Florida Man, Florida Lawman? I thought it was clever and catchy. So.
I like it. All right, so we're going to start with Jennifer Crumley. Her son committed a mass shooting at a school in Michigan, killing 4 people, 4 students. And she was convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And that's really the first time that a parent was held responsible for the deaths of the students in a school shooting. And so what I wanted to hear from you is what was different about this case, why she was able to be held responsible.
She was held responsible in a community, Oxford, Michigan, where you have a lot of gun owners there. And people say, well, how are you going to hold someone responsible? They're going to put themselves in the defendant's shoes as saying, how are we responsible for our children if they commit crimes? But this was different. This was not just a parent whose kid committed an awful crime. This was someone who knew that their child had some serious mental health issues. And instead of getting him a therapist, they bought him a gun. And they took him to the range to learn how to shoot the gun. And then, when he was caught in school looking on his phone for ammunition, the teacher did what we tell teachers to do. If you see something, say something. She reported it to the principal. They then called the parents. The parents never responded. Didn't even return the phone call for the school. Instead, the mother texted her son, LOL, I'm not mad at you, just don't get caught. And then the next day, this troubled child is drawing out images of killing people. Awful. And it says blood everywhere. The thoughts won't stop. Help me. And it shows with a gun shooting people. The teacher did what the teacher's supposed to do. Saw something, said something, reported to the principal. The principal, they call the student and the parents. And the parents come in and they have a conference. And they say, we'd like you to take your son home. And they say, no, we have to go back to work. The parents never told the school that they had purchased a gun for their son. They never checked the backpack. And people say, well, the school didn't check the kid's backpack either. Correct. But the school did not know that the kid had access to a gun. And instead of locking away the gun, the parents just left it out. So the kid had the gun in the backpack. And because he was not sent home, because the parents wouldn't take him home, because no one checked the backpack, he went back into class and murdered 4 innocent students. And so this could have been avoided. So when people say, well, should parents be responsible for their kids? Well, in this case, yes. This wasn't just being passive parents who just got a bad luck. This were parents who enabled this kid, who empowered him, who bought him the gun, taught him how to shoot, and refused to take action. So yes, in this case, they should be found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The mother was, and the father's trial is next.
Thank you. Wow. So moving on, the next hot take, let's talk about the case that everyone is talking about, Fulton County DA Fani Willis. So right now, she could be removed from the criminal case against Donald Trump. She's accused of benefiting financially from her relationship with a prosecutor on her team. So can you tell us what could happen if she is removed? What would be the outcome of that?
So Fonnie Willis is my counterpart in Atlanta, and she brought this prosecution, and she hired to lead the prosecution a gentleman named Nathan Wade. Nathan Wade was a longtime friend and mentor of hers. He didn't have experience doing RICO cases, and they had a long-standing friendship. Now, by the way, I don't think any of that is an issue. She can choose whoever she wants. In fact, she chose 3 special prosecutors to lead the investigation and then the indictments. So 3 of them. Nathan Wade is one of the 3. He's the lead guy. He bills the most hours. And at some point, they started a relationship, and he took her on trips. So people said, aha, you're using taxpayer money to pay her, and this is like illegal kickbacks. She hired him. He spends money on her. That's not an actual conflict of interest. If she hired him to do the job, he's doing the job, they start dating, and then they go on trips together. That's not enough to disqualify someone from the case. Where there's a problem is this. Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor, submitted a sworn affidavit to the court saying that the relationship began after I was hired, not before, and I got reimbursed by Fonnie Willis in cash with no records. Just it got reimbursed in cash. So now the question is whether they lied to the court. Now, Fonnie Willis also said, yes, I adopt that affidavit. So now they both told the court, this is what is going on. We didn't start the relationship until afterwards, and I paid them back. If they hadn't done that, none of this would be an issue. We wouldn't even have this whole exercise. But because they went ahead, I said this is a self-inflicted wound. They didn't have to go ahead. They could have just said, you know what, we had a relationship. Okay. In fact, because of the appearances of impropriety or of a conflict, to avoid any appearances, Nathan Wade is going to step aside and we're going to continue this case. But instead, they doubled down and they submitted this sworn affidavit. And because of that, it's led to this whole issue. So I don't know where it's going to lead. I think Nathan Wade should step aside. I think Fonnie Willis shouldn't have to. But I don't know if it's proven that they lied to the court, then they're going to be disqualified. So I don't know. And this is the lesson. When you do something so high profile as to go after a former president, especially one as polarizing as Donald Trump, you got to make sure you are pristine, that there's no question of who you're dating. You have to be a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout for the next, 24 months. And so that's just a lesson learned.
Got it. All right, so the last hot take. So I recently watched a piece on CNN about juvenile crime and how it is increasing all over the country. We actually recently just released a press release talking about targeting gang crime here, and the age range is 16 to 24. So what can we do to really address that through the legal system?
Juvenile crime?
Yes.
This was the toughest issue when I ran the first time. I remember Alex was there for a lot of my speeches, and I would be saying things like, you want to treat juveniles as juveniles and not throw them into adult court, except in the most limited circumstances. A 17-year-old who points a gun at your head and carjacks you, yeah, that's probably someone who should be going into adult court. But if it's a 15-year-old selling marijuana, our office, before I got there, used to send those kids to adult court. And I was like, that's not a good use of the system. You want to be, it's one thing to be tough on crime. It's another thing to be stupid on crime. And so we want to make sure you treat different people differently. You don't want a juvenile who could be saved, who can be turned into a productive, law-abiding, tax-paying citizen to instead be thrown into adult court where they learn from adult criminals. And now they can't go to college because it's all public, and they can't go in the military because they're not going to accept them. So let's change the way we think about it. So when I took over as state attorney, we were dead last in conviction rates for adults, and we were number 1 in direct file rates for juveniles. So we were not doing the best job of convicting adults, but we were doing a really bang-up job throwing young people into adult court. So that's what. So I wanted to reduce those. I wanted to increase the conviction rates, which we did. I've got an amazing team. 2 of my chief assistants here tonight, Alexia Cox and Craig Williams. And yeah, all right. And so what we did was we raised the conviction rates through a lot of things. I don't want to bore you with all the things we did, but on the direct file, this is where it got tough. Of all the things I had to do as state attorney, this was the toughest. Because it is not as easy as you think just to reduce the number of young people thrown into adult court. At some point, look, if you get a lot of carjackings of 17-year-olds, that's going to raise your numbers. So what I did was I said, we're going to take away some of the things that qualify you as going into adult court. No longer, if you sell marijuana, are you going to be direct filed into adult court. So we reduced those numbers of crimes. And then I said, and before you had one person who made the decision, one person in the office, I want to have a second pair of eyes. So instead of the head of juvenile, let's have also the head of felony intake, and they both must agree. So here I am going through this process, and I'm like, this should fix the problem. The next year, the numbers came out, and I got a call from someone who said, hey, Dave, you know, your numbers are still #1 on direct file. I said, what? That's impossible. I looked, I was like, unbelievable, they're still #1. So then I had to get my hands dirty and actually go in, and each case I said, why was this person direct filed? And we went down the list. Well, this was this was this, and I got more involved, and because of that, I think the numbers started to decrease, and now we're towards the middle with everyone else, and it's been an intractable, very difficult issue since I've taken over, but we've gotten where I had wanted to go, reducing it to at least the state average and increasing the conviction rates for adults. So there's no easy answer to it, but the one thing I'll say, I'll leave you this one thing. We have to continue our strong working relationship with law enforcement. The police do an amazing job. They put their lives on the line, and they do it with, in this day and age, without getting the respect they used to get. It's a tough job, and it's important that prosecutors are there to file cases that the police give us that are good cases. In other communities like Chicago and some other cities, police don't think prosecutors have their backs. Police aren't going to make arrests because the prosecutors, they think, care more about defendants than victims. And so it's important that prosecutors are reminded who we are. We're supposed to stand up for victims. If we don't stand up for victims of crime, no one else in the criminal justice system will. And so that's my final word, is that I love this job because you have discretion, you can do justice, you can have mercy. In the end, you have to have humility because you have the ultimate power of this job of taking away someone's freedom. There's like very few other jobs in government where you have that kind of power. So you must use it judiciously and with humility. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for listening to me. I hope that I answered your questions tonight.
You did. You answered them. And we at Riviera Beach Police Department really appreciate, I know I can speak on behalf of everyone that says we really thank you for the relationship we have with you and how we've been able to work together. And so that's Hot Takes with Dave Aronberg. So thank you. So over the years, you have had the opportunity to be a part of a lot of high-profile cases. So there's been Miss Cleo and, The Boy in the Box. And I just recently watched the Murder for Hire story, Makiva Jenkins, on TV. And so I love these crime docudramas. My husband thinks I'm crazy for watching them, but I love them. And so when you watch them, you know that there's always the detective or the prosecutor that says, in all my years of practicing or doing this, I've never seen anything like this, or this sticks out in my mind. And so I wanted to know from you, what has been really that case for you that's really sticks out in your mind or that you will never forget?
There are two cases. Now, they're all important, but I'll start with the first. The craziest case is the clown killer case. The evil clown who murdered an innocent mother at her home in Wellington in 1990. Now, we finally solved and we got a measure of justice. It's tough. When those cases get cold, witnesses die, memories fade, evidence spoils, but we're able to do justice. And that was just a bizarre case, like from the movies, from the movie It. You ever see the It movie? It? Yeah. Evil clown movie, Stephen King. But the most meaningful case that I did was the Corey Jones case. That case showed that we do believe in equal justice under the law. We work with police, and police overwhelmingly are really hardworking, dedicated people. Here you had one rogue cop not in this community, different community, who murdered Corey Jones and then lied about it. Corey Jones was stranded on the side of the road because his car broke down, and there were two people that night, the undercover cop and Corey Jones, and one of them afterwards was dead. And how do we know what happened? The cop told us that he identified himself as a police officer, and Corey Jones pointed a gun at him, and the cop shot at him, and then Corey Jones ran, and then repointed the gun at him, and shot, and then the police officer shot him dead. But the problem was the gun was like 44 feet or yards. Was it like 44 feet or yards? 44 yards, I think, from the body. So if he pointed the gun at you, you shot him, why is the gun all the way over here in the body? 44 yards is all the way over there. That's right, it's 44 yards. And then why was he also shot from behind, from behind? So it didn't make sense, but we didn't have enough evidence to prove it. And then, like manna from heaven, we got a call from the FBI that said, hey, we got a recording. Corey Jones was on the phone with roadside assistance, waiting for the tow truck to come. It recorded everything. What? I mean, how often do you get that? Is that not divine intervention? I mean, really, you knew something was wrong, but you couldn't. And then think about if we didn't have that. I would have had to go before the community and said, I think something's wrong, but we don't have evidence. We can't prove it. And they were like, shame on you. And that would have been, I don't even want to think about that, but occasionally I do. And thank God there was this recording that confirmed everything we thought, hard evidence. And still, it went to trial. We had to prove the case with the recording. And with that recording, an all-white jury convicted Newman Raja of killing Corey Jones. And the first time a police officer had been convicted of an on-duty death in 30 years in the state of Florida. And that was a team of Adrian Ellis, Alexia Cox, and Brian Fernandez. And they deserve a lot of credit for it. That's history. And, it's just something it's the only time that's happened since I've been here. But, these cases sometimes are brought to you. You don't have a choice because this is in your jurisdiction, and it's up to you to do the right thing and to convince the community you're doing the right thing. That was the other tough part, because we took a while to go to the grand jury because we wanted to get it right. And I don't know if you remember, when we made the decision to go to the grand jury, there was a lot of controversy about it, but there was a reason why we did, and I couldn't talk about it publicly. But we had that tape. We wanted to hear from the law enforcement officer to see what he would say under oath, not knowing what we knew. But, in the end, we did justice. I thank God for all the honest, hardworking law enforcement people in our community, like the ones here tonight. They deserve a round of applause. They deserve a round of applause. Grateful to all of you. We did justice in that case. So that, I think, is one of our legacies. And by the way, it's not my legacy. It's the legacy of everyone in the office. This was a team effort.
And we're really grateful for that legacy. That meant a lot to, I want to say, everyone in the county, but as someone who's originally from Delray, it really meant a lot to the community there. That
you know him?
I did not know him, but I know a lot of people who did. And so nothing but great things that people had to say about him, that he was just the kindest person. And so we are so grateful for that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about something that you are very passionate about, which is animal welfare. So your first trial as state attorney was actually a felony animal cruelty case, right? And you won an award for that. So talk about being able to, work in an area that you're actually passionate about and that you're really, that's close to your heart.
Well, I've done, the only trials I've done personally have been felony animal cruelty cases because it's something near and dear to me. And I'm going to do one more trial before I leave. That's this summer. I'm doing a murder trial. I'm going to do that with Adrian Ellis and Courtney Behar, and so it should be very interesting. I've never done a murder case. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? A murderer goes free, right? Oh, well, I guess so. No, I'm just kidding. It's not going to happen. That's a little... I shouldn't say that. Dark humor, right? All right, yeah. No, we're going to do justice in this case, and I'm looking forward to doing it. But as far as the animal cruelty cases are a passion of mine because, you can tell a lot about our community by how it treats its most vulnerable, and that includes our fur babies, our four-legged family members. And I didn't become a dog owner. I never had a pet. My folks never let me have one as a kid. I never had one until I was 40 years old when I adopted Cookie from Big Dog Ranch Rescue. And I used to bring her to the office every Friday. Changed my life.
Aww.
So I honor her every time I do a case like that.
How many dogs do you have now?
Well, now, I lost Cookie and I adopted Getty from a rescue in Tennessee, and together with my fiance Sasha's beautiful golden doodle, Blue the Doodle. Now we have Blue and Getty, and they're best of friends. And we want to adopt two more rescues, but our place isn't big enough. This is why I have to leave. I've got to get a bigger place to adopt more dogs.
Okay. I was listening to an interview with you where you were actually baking, I think, a cake or something for your dog. I was like, this is cute.
So there was this podcast where they say, we bake. And I said, well, I'm going to bake a cake for my dogs. So I did. I baked called a hound cake. Get it? Because Getty is a beagle. A hound cake, yeah. They loved it.
Hound cake, okay. So I think we're going to talk about a few things over the course of the night, but I think we could just sit here and talk for the rest of the night about the work that you've done in the sober home industry and how you've really worked to put an end to the Florida Shuffle. You're really known for leading the charge on that really nationwide, and so I was a little surprised to hear that you said that you really, before tackling this, had no personal connection to, the sober home industry or addiction. And you said over time that you were able to grow compassion for people struggling with addiction. And you said you saw them as people who were, not with a moral failing, but people who were struggling with a disease. Can you talk about that?
Well, so it was back in 2000. That's where I started. In 2001, I had no real personal involvement with, the addiction industry. I was not someone who had ever, done any drugs. My family, thankfully, had not. We didn't have someone close to me who was, who was in the throes of addiction. So I was ignorant about a lot of these issues. And I was a young assistant attorney general working for Bob Butterworth. He was the AG, and he called me into his office. And he said, handed me an article. He said, I want to do something about this new drug, OxyContin. It's getting people addicted and people are dying. So I remember when he handed me this article, I'm thinking, drug users are going to use, come on. I was ignorant. I didn't know any better. I read the article. I was like, oh my gosh. Here are people who had sports injuries in West Virginia, workplace injuries. They went to the doctor prescribed them this new drug called OxyContin, made by this huge pharmaceutical company called Purdue Pharma, making billions, and they ended up getting addicted and dying. That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem right. Someone should look into this company. And so then I became one of the first to investigate Purdue Pharma for their marketing practices. If you saw the series Dope Sick, it was hard for me to watch. I was too close to it. I was there. I was one of the first to investigate it, and I found all this wrongdoing. They were marketing their product like it was Advil. They were selling stuffed animals with OxyContin T-shirts on it, like cute little stuffed animals. Come on, kids. OxyContin, they would sell swing music CDs for seniors, swing in the right direction with OxyContin. This is a opioid, a Schedule II, that should be used either as a drug of last resort or when you're in hospice care, like if nothing else works, or at the end of your life. It should not be used as a drug of first resort. And I would say that to the company, and the company reps would say, oh, we don't tell people to start with the drug. And then I held up a mug. On the back of the mug, OxyContin, the one to start with. That was their mug they used to hand out. That was their slogan, the one to start with. So I have a regret, though, is that, I left to go into the state senate. I got elected in 2002, and so I had to leave the office. And the investigation was not complete. And after I left, the office settled a couple months later. And it was not as strong of a settlement as I wish it would be. It's not necessarily the office's fault. I think that was a lost opportunity. We settled. They made some changes. Florida got money for a prescription drug monitoring database, but we could have done more. And I wish we could have done more. But we made up for it by going after the rogue sober homes. These are the drug treatment, the halfway houses that kept people in a series of drug abuse and relapse until they died because they were going after their insurance money. So we cleaned that whole industry up. You don't see the sober home corruption like you did before we went after. We've made 121 arrests. Al Johnson, who you saw on the screen, just amazing. So that, I think, is a real legacy of our office. You don't see these rogue sober homes and corrupted drug treatment centers in our community anymore. I mean, all these lives have been saved, and I'm so proud of that. In fact, I've written a book about that. Yeah, 4 years in the making.
The name of the book.
The name of the book, as of right now, until it gets changed, is "Fighting the Florida Shuffle." So yeah, so you'll see it. Hopefully, it'll come out in a few months. It's been, like I said, 4 years in the making. It's tough to write a book when you also have a day job, I've learned.
Well, you heard it here first that we'll be looking out for the book. I want to continue to talk about the opioid epidemic. You know, we're seeing we're still fighting it. You know, we're seeing fentanyl now, and we're hearing a lot about it. People are dying, and so I thought it was, you know, important to mention that your office has more of a comprehensive approach to helping individuals. So you provide, you know, follow-up care and resources, and you have addiction recovery task force. And so what's the difference you've seen from approaching it with providing, you know, more than just the pursuit of law enforcement?
You know, you can't arrest your way out of a drug problem. You have to have a comprehensive approach that includes prevention and quality treatment. So we did the law enforcement side very strongly, and then we cleaned up the treatment side. The prevention side is something that we're still working on with more Narcan in the community. Does Riviera Police, you carry Narcan? You will be. Excellent. That's a huge change. That's going to make a real difference. That's what I'm talking about, prevention. Do you know that in our county, we actually had a decrease in opioid overdose deaths in the last year? While, Mark, do you remember the numbers? It was something like 3 times the amount decrease than in the rest of the state. It was like 18%, where the rest of the state's like 4%. So we have really made a difference, yeah. But that's also not just because of us, but because of increased Narcan. We have an addiction stabilization unit at JFK North, not far from here. If you overdose, you don't necessarily go to the emergency room just to get pumped full of drugs and released into the hospital's parking lot to overdose again. That's what happens. Now you go to a stabilization center where you're given medication to break the cycle of addiction, so you don't keep coming back over and over again with more overdoses. So that's something I'm very proud of.
Thank you. We're all very proud of it. I think that deserves a round of applause. I have to say, though, as a mother, I am most grateful for your work that you've done for school safety and preparedness for a school shooting or acts of violence on campus. You really were, again, at the forefront after the Parkland shooting. You called a grand jury. And so why was it important for you to even take that step in order to address this issue?
Yeah, I just thought that the Parkland massacre was preventable. It was avoidable. You had this troubled kid, who was addicted to guns and loved violence and was a menace. Everyone in the school knew he was a menace. And he was part of this Promise program that he was treated with kid gloves, and you know, it should have been addressed so that he didn't show up one day with an AR-15 and massacre 17 students. I mean, there was so much more that can be done. Like school safety. How was he able just to walk on the campus like that? Everyone knew. They called him the devil kid, and yet he was able to walk on the campus with an AR-15. And so I wanted to look at what we're doing in Palm Beach County so that it would never happen here. And we've made some changes. We did the grand jury report. One of the best things we have is this partnership we have with Sheriff Bradshaw and all law enforcement, where they're very proactive. He has teams of people going to homes where there is a mental health incident to get involved on the front end before a tragedy occurs. So I'm grateful for that partnership. But that's what we do. It's about prevention as much as enforcement.
You also partner with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office with a human trafficking task force as well.
We have a human trafficking task force where there's a federal grant that we get. And we had 0 cases until we got this federal grant. Now we have hundreds of cases. It's not like all of a sudden human trafficking started to exist. Human trafficking has always been here. It's just now we're better at rooting it out. We're proactive. And we work with law enforcement to get at it. Like, for example, they're on the internet right now dealing with these predators. Instead of waiting for a tragedy to occur, we're rooting it out on the front end. So really, I'm very proud of what we've been able to do here in Palm Beach County. And that's why I think I'm leaving at the right time, because you know, I think we've got the right team in motion. There are 2 candidates from my office running for state attorney, who I'm not allowed to give a political speech. Both are outstanding candidates, and I'm proud of the work we've done. Now, there are some people who are running who are not part of the office. I'm not going to say anything more about that.
We're very proud of your office as well, and the two candidates as well. So let's talk about the local state prosecutor. You recently wrote an article for CNN where you talked about, prosecutors now kind of getting their due, recognition. People are seeing you more. And so can you talk a little bit about that?
As far as
people recognizing local prosecutors. I mean, the power that you have.
Oh, the power of local prosecutors. Yeah, well, look. It used to be the prosecutors we know were all federal prosecutors, the national people. But now look who the household names are. Fonnie Willis, Alvin Bragg, right? Dave Aronberg? Well, maybe not.
Yes, Dave Aronberg.
But local prosecutors, what goes on locally has more of an impact on your daily life than what goes on in Washington, D.C. Federal prosecutors have a fraction of our cases. We have thousands of cases. Federal prosecutors get to pick and choose what they want to prosecute. We don't have a choice. We get the cases brought to us. When you leave today, you count on us and law enforcement to keep you safe. A federal prosecutor is an important job, but they're dealing with like IRS issues and healthcare fraud, but when you're dealing with potential violence on the streets, that's us. That's our office. We do that. So I just think it's important that people realize that, because they may know, people will know who their president is, but they often don't know who's on the local school board. That has a big impact on your life. A lot of people don't know who your prosecutor is, who your state attorney is. I go into grand juries and I say, how many people know who I am? And most people don't. And I say, I've been on TV. I spent money on commercials. No, nothing. So I just think people need to know their local government officials matter. Like, you all know your school board member? It's really important, right? I mean, what goes on in your schools? So that's why I just think it's important for people to know, like, their local government. By the way, the fact that you're here tonight means you are the most sophisticated, most engaged folks in a community, and I applaud you for that. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for being here. And so along those lines, when you took office 12 years ago, you said, we're going to restore the mission of the office to one of doing justice rather than politics. And so I want to say job well done. I think you've done that 1,000 times over. And I read that Palm Beach County last year was ranked #2 in conviction rates in the state. So, I mean, that's a huge feat. We can just stop and give a round of applause for that.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you attribute that to?
Well, it's the people. We got the best people, the best staff, right? The best people. And it's true. It really is. It really is. We have people who could make more money in the private sector, could do a lot of other things, but they work for our office because they care about victims of crime. They care about people. And, also it's about doing justice. We're able to make sure we get it right. If there's someone, we have a conviction review unit. If we don't get it right, we want that person to be free. It does us no good to incarcerate the wrong person. That doesn't advance the cause of justice. That just makes sure that a real guilty person goes free while we make an innocent person suffer. So we have a conviction review unit to make sure that we get it right. So you have all these things in place, and that's why I think that we're going to hopefully keep the same values, principles, and procedures in place that we've had to keep it going, even when I'm gone.
So speaking of you leaving, we all want to know, we're all here to know, what are you going to do next?
Oh boy, so is this the final? All
is.
Right, so thank you all for staying around. I mentioned earlier, so what's next? Get married, have kids, get more dogs, get a house. I'm going to do a little private sector stuff, but I also want to see where the TV thing goes. I'm doing streaming stuff now, which is cool. The linear TV is dying. People are watching now YouTube and other things. What do y'all watch? What streaming stuff? Podcasts. People, right? Yeah, people watch that, and I think that's probably where I'll do a little more of that. But I love doing it. On my YouTube channel, which I'll plug, I do true crime stuff. The Crumbly case. I'm going to do a video. I think I'm going out of town tomorrow morning. Before we go, I'm going to do a video like at midnight about the Alec Baldwin case, the Rust murder trial. it's not a murder trial, it's involuntary manslaughter. There's the armorer is on trial. And I love doing this. And you know why I love talking about true crime? First, people love to talk about true crime. You know, especially women. Women love true crime.
We do.
Right? More than, I tell you, women, I don't understand, but women have a passion for true crime. So what I want to do is, in my role as state attorney, I think it's imperative that I increase transparency of the criminal justice process. You see, my last words will be this. The criminal justice process is cloaked with secrecy. Grand juries are secret, right? Prosecutors can't talk about pending cases, right? Everything, we don't have a lot of transparency. So I think in my role, I'd like to increase the transparency by talking about cases, not mine, can't do that. Talk about other cases. So here's really what's going on with the New Mexico trial. Here's what's going on with Fonnie Willis. You know, because there's so much misinformation out there. I want to break through that. And the other thing I want to do, which I like doing, is I love doing like Morning Joe, and I was on this morning, I don't know if you saw, and I love to take these complex legal issues and break them down to non-lawyers. Because these lawyers on TV, they love to use these fancy Latin phrases and stuff. Like, come on, it's not that hard. We don't have to pretend we're any smarter than anyone else. Here's what's going on. And I love that. The best comment you can give me is if you see me on TV, you say, Dave, you make these legal issues so easy to get. I love that. I love that. That's what I'm going for. And I love the chance to be able to explain things to millions of people out there. What a gift. What an opportunity. And I should never take that for granted. And that's why I love doing it. I want to see where it goes. And I will always be part of this community. So thank you again for having me. I am truly honored and blessed to have been part of this tonight.
And we're very thankful for you joining us. And we will all be watching wherever you go. We'll be watching you on TV and reading the book that comes out. And so thank you again for joining us. Can we all give him a round of applause as well again? Before we let you go, though, we have a special treat for you. So I want you to stay on stage, and I'm going to go down here. I also want to call up our chief is not here, but our deputy chief, Kevin Coppin, to come up. And again, we are very thankful and grateful for all of the work that you've done here in the county. I know, again, we said we see you nationally, but I think it's really important that we as a local community really honor and highlight the people that are doing the work, fighting for us here in Palm Beach County. And so we are very honored. We wanted to present you with an Exceptional Public Servant Award for all of the work that you've done. Deputy Chief, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I do. I've known Dave since he took office. He literally called me. I was a captain in West Palm at the time, and I don't know how he got my number, but he called me out of the blue. I was running the detective division. He probably doesn't remember that. Got my number. He says, someone gave me my number. I'm running for state attorney, and they said I should give you a call. And we probably talked for about 20, 30 minutes, didn't know who he was, and then he gets elected. And here we are 12 years later. And you've done an outstanding job for this community. And I could say I appreciate the work that you've done. You can tell by the folks here that we really, really appreciate the work that you've done. And you've really supported all the law enforcement in this county. And it was a pleasure working with you. And we'll be watching you. We'll definitely be watching you. Yeah. So from the bottom of our hearts, we really, really appreciate what you've done for this community.
Thank you again, Mr. Aronberg. I asked Mark before the interview. I was like, what does he want to be called? Mr. Aronberg? He was like, Dave, for sure. So thank you, Dave, for joining us tonight. Thank you all again for sitting through the interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is a live interview series that will continue throughout the year, and so we hope you will join us for all of our other interviews. I want to acknowledge everyone in the room. Again, thank Chief Michael Coleman for allowing us to have this event, for his leadership. Deputy Chief Coppin, I want to recognize the Assistant Chief Madden and all the command staff that are here in support. The City of Riviera Beach, especially the communications team that really helped me with this event. I want to acknowledge our Councilman Lawson that is here in support. Also, I want to acknowledge the CJC that is here in support as well. And of course, the State Attorney's Office, Mark, and Latasha and Natalie that really helped me with this event, so thank you. And that is Trailblazers PBC. Thank you for joining us.